everyone. My name is Chief Michael Coleman. I started here over a year ago, and something Mr. Evans and I talked about is being hard on crime and investigating cases very thoroughly with our investigators and our team. This case was way before me. The investigation started 10 years ago. And we're proud to say that 10 years later, we solved this case by arrest of two individuals that created a heinous crime in our city. And because of our thorough investigation, our great detectives and investigators and our partners throughout Palm Beach County, we was able to solve this case. And I want the family to know that we never forgot about what we had to do, and we never one day did not think about how we're going to conclude this case. But today is a good day for us and a good day for Rivera Beach and the families. We are going to give you more information about how the case developed, but also I'd like the city manager to say a word about what he want to share some words about the city and about what we're doing as far as crime in the city of Rivera Beach.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. Certainly this is a somber moment for the family because they relive these emotions that they went through a long time ago, but I'm glad that we are working diligently to provide closure for these families that experience these heinous crimes. And there is not a day that the Riviera Beach Police Department will rest until we solve and bring closure to every family. So persons that are continuing perpetuating crimes in our community and acts of violence, we will scour every document we have, and we will go to the end of the earth to bring closure and justice for these families. The city of Riviera Beach is acutely focused on resolving these issues. With our federal partners and our partners across agencies, we are committed to bringing justice. Our community is a safe community, and everyone deserves the right to traverse our community safely. I want to thank all the law enforcement professionals involved in this. I want to thank the elected officials that have been resolute, providing additional monies in the budget for the purposes of facilitating additional monies for cold case review. And so we appreciate the efforts, and we will continue to fight the fight for our community, because no family deserves to go through this, and no family deserves to not have closure. And those that continue and work in the shadows, we will find you, and under Chief Coleman's leadership, we will make sure that you are brought to justice. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the individuals who picked this case up after 9 years. Not to say that the investigators, when they first started this case, did not do a diligent job, which they did. Sometimes you hit roadblocks in investigations. And because of our cold case unit we created a couple years back, we brought some experts in from the FBI that retired and have their serious skill set. They picked this case up and took another look at it. And because of their expertise and their resources that they have throughout the country, we was able to solve this case. At this time, I would like to bring in Major Lewis, who's in charge of our investigative unit, and he's going to give you more insight on how this case came to be and how we made this arrest. Major Lewis.
Good morning. My name is Major Josh Lewis with the Riviera Beach Police Department, JOSHLEWIS. First thing I want to do is thank everybody for being here today, with the most importantly being is Ms. Oziros and family. Our condolences go out to you. We're here today because, like the city manager said, we will not stop until we hold people accountable. This is just the beginning. Some short time ago, we initiated a cold case unit. The goal of the cold case unit was to do exactly what we're here for today, which is to provide accountability and bring justice to the victims of those who are part of heinous crimes like this. We have 3 cold case detectives right now. They're all former federal agents. They are the best of the best, and we brought in the best of the best to address these issues. We will not stop. Right now, I want to send a message, and the message is that if you commit a crime in this city, I don't care if it's in 1970, I don't care if it's in 1980, 1990, we will find you. We will hunt you down. We will do what we need to do to make sure that you're brought to justice. And today is an example of that. At this point, I want to bring the lead detective, John McVeigh. He'll provide details of the case.
Thank you, Major. It's John McVeigh, M-A-C-V-E-I-G-H. I started here in November of 2022. I'm a former special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I was also a police officer in Jupiter, so I've worked in this county for 30 years. I was deeply honored to come work here and know that possibly I can make a difference. This case we picked up from the beginning. Like Chief Coleman said, the detectives did an excellent job, but like I said, there were some stumbling blocks and there were some things that just couldn't get pushed over the goal line. And we went back through, we reviewed everything, we decided that we needed to take another look. We interviewed people, we interviewed new people. We then went back through and started doing some DNA testing on some weapons that we had found in another unrelated case. The conclusion of those was that the DNA linked it to the two suspects that we have now in custody. It's an honor. I know that this is not going to be the one and only news conference because we're diligently working at doing this. Like Major Lewis said, between the three of us, we have about 100 years of experience. So I hope to be that we'll be here more and we'll have more people here that will happily know that the Riviera Beach Police Department got justice for them and their families. Any questions?
So, explain a little further, sir, how exactly do you determine that these two guys were the killers?
So both Mr. Heath and Mr. Brown had been suspects in some robbery shootings in West Palm Beach prior to the homicide on March 4th of 2014. Unfortunately, at that time, it was never married up as to who committed our murder, and then West Palm had their case. So during the investigation with West Palm's case, they identified Mr. Heath as a suspect in a robbery. They used the U.S. Marshals to investigate him and arrest him. At the time of his arrest, him and Mr. Brown were in vehicles that had weapons in it. They seized the weapons, and during the search and use of those weapons in their crimes, they stuck them into the database, and it ended up being a hit on the weapons that we had casings in our case. So at that point, we knew we had something, but then again, that doesn't necessarily mean that those are the people that did the shooting. So as we moved forward, the detectives did an excellent job, but it was just some stumbling blocks as to witnesses and witness testimony at the time that they felt it just wasn't enough to go forward. So we went back through, we re-interviewed people, we got some more facts from people that we knew that were near the scene, and then eventually we made that determination as to going forward with the DNA testing on the guns, knowing that they were seized and they were used. At least at that point, we knew that the two suspects, their DNA was on the guns, and we just recently did that within the last year with the help of PPSO.
So their DNA was on, you said casings, you mean there were shell casings at the
So there was
scene at the tire
shell
shop?
sure, there was shell casings at the scene at the tire shop. Those are entered into NIBIN, which is the national database. Those shell casings were matched in West Palm's case on their shootings. And then they test fired the guns in their case, and they matched our homicide. But then again, we had to prove that the two individuals who were captured almost a week later were the suspects in our case.
So there was DNA though on the shell casings? Or
No, on the
fingerprints?
guns, on the guns.
DNA on the two guns that were guns, like two guns?
There was two guns, yes.
Were used in armed robberies, correct?
Correct.
And then you found shell casings at the tire shop, which you were able to link through, what, ballistics or something?
Correct.
To these other guns?
Correct.
Okay, so then you knew, okay, we think we know who the killers are, but that wasn't enough to make an arrest?
No.
So what more did you need then to make the arrest?
Well, to prove that those are the people that were holding the guns
And so how did you do that?
through the DNA testing. And so eventually they went through and we did the DNA testing recently because it wasn't tested. And now, like I said, it's something that they made the match, and we can basically guarantee that these two people are the people.
What was the motive for these two murders?
They were on a robbery shooting spree. They had committed, that we know of, at least 2 other robberies of just people on the streets. They were just pulling up, jumping out, using stolen vehicles. People were turning over their property, but they were getting shot anyway. And in this situation, the owner was, he basically was trying to help and stand there, and these guys just jumped out for no reason whatsoever, robbed him, and shot him.
Just to clarify, you said that over this past 10 years, you were able to talk to witnesses again and get more information recently that helped you further this case?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
You said the owner of the tire shop was trying to help them.
Well, not trying to help, but I mean, he wasn't resisting, he was standing there, they were doing tires. These guys get out, they're like, what are you doing? And next thing you know, they open fire on them.
How much money did they get?
Zero.
No money?
They took property, jewelry.
Okay, can you describe the things?
It was just a necklace.
A gold necklace from one of the men who
Yes.
was shot and killed?
Yes.
Was that the tire shop owner or
Yes,
the other guy?
tire shop owner,
The other guy was his employee, right?
correct.
Okay. Have they confessed, these two guys?
No.
One's in custody, or they're both in custody?
Both were in custody on two unrelated charges.
Are they looking at, what, the death penalty, life in prison, or do you know?
I don't know, you have to ask state attorneys that.
Can you describe the satisfaction you get from finally solving this?
Well, I think in any of these cases, you know, I had experience before in the FBI, and I worked the Singer Island homicide case. Basically, I guess that would be my first cold case for Rivera Beach. I mean, it took us 5 years to solve that case. The feeling is sympathy for the family and knowing that, you know, justice was served. And in this situation, you know, when I first met Cynthia, you know, I just went to her business, cold called and knocked on the door and told her what we were doing. And, you know, I explained to her, I said, look, I'm going to do my best to put these people in jail because you need justice. And, you know, anytime you get someone off the street, Mr. Brown was due to get out soon. Mr. Heath, again, was out on the streets. You know, these people don't need to be living in our communities and having free reign. It's something that, you know, everybody in law enforcement, as much as you always hear, you know, you don't take this personal, well, you do. You have 2 lives that were snuffed out for no reason whatsoever. And you have 2 individuals that are walking on the streets that are committing crime after crime after crime, and they're not being accountable.
Were they surprised when you said, hey, we're charging you now with this murder from 10 years ago? Or did they say anything?
Mr. Brown was. He was shocked.
What did he say?
He didn't say anything, but just the look on his face.
I don't want to go through all this again, but I'm not sure I understand exactly, though, how you tied the shell casings to the guns from the West Palm Beach armed robbery. Can you walk me through that again?
So when guns are seized in cases, usually the sheriff's office or the agency that seizes them puts them into the database. They test fire them, and they take that shell casing and put it in the database, and then the computer matches those up. So at the time, they had shell casings from our case. They had shell casings from West Palm's case. They didn't know each other. We're doing an investigation. West Palm was doing theirs, Riviera was doing theirs. In the West Palm Beach case, when they arrested Heath, they had weapons in the car. Those weapons they test fired, and they matched the West Palm case. As they put them in the computer ended up coming back saying, hey, you have a match in the Riviera Beach case of those 2 weapons. And that's how you get that match.
So there are markings on the shell casing?
Yeah, there's distinct markings. You know, you have the ejector. You know, when the shell casing comes out, you have the primer. I don't know the logistics and the analog of how it actually reads it, but somehow that's what it does.
Is this motivating for you guys? You know, you form this cold case team, and you've got a big arrest, you know, 10 years. I'm sure you've got a multitude of other cases. How does this, for your team, feel like, hey, we got this one, we got to keep going?
Well, I think it's, you know, you get the first one, right? That's the point. Get the first one done, get it prosecuted. Between the 3 of us, we're actively working cases. I mean, I hope to be back here in the next 6 months on another case that's even older. But, you know, you look at these cases and you go through them and you know, you basically got to see what was done, what wasn't done, what needs to be done, and then you fill those holes. And, you know, a lot of these cases we may never solve because you just don't have the witnesses, or witnesses are dead. We're going back to, I have an open case dating all the way back to 1965. So, I mean, you're talking, I was 1 year old. So, you know, there's a lot of cases out there, and there's a lot of cases that definitely, that I feel that with hard work and especially with new technology and things like that, that we'll be able to to get a lot more arrests.
When was the cold case team formed? You said recently?
November of 2022 we started.
You mentioned that you guys recently did the DNA testing. Why now? I'm walking
It just wasn't done.
No reason?
Wasn't done. And that could be a vast reasons. I mean, it's unfortunately, it's like I said, is you look at these cases and you see what was done, what wasn't done, what can be done. Is it somebody's fault? I have no idea. But, you know, you look at those scenarios and you go back and you decide, like, does this person need to be interviewed again? After you read the report and you see the report and you go, well, the detective never asked him this. Okay, well, we need to go back and talk to him. That's the whole thing of putting these together, is going back and seeing with the fresh eyes as to what needs to be done. And when you look back and you're thinking, well, this wasn't done, it wasn't done, I don't know why.
And how soon after from the DNA being tested to the arrest? What was that?
I think the DNA testing came back in December, but we had to go through the indictment process and all that.
And how did you determine that these two guys were the ones who were holding the guns when the two murders were committed? How did you determine Heath and Brown were the gunmen
Because nobody else's DNA was on them.
on the
Weapons,
weapons?
correct.
And their DNA was on the casings at the scene?
No, there's no DNA on casings at the
No.
scene.
Okay,
There's a lot more stuff that I won't get into that part, but I mean, this is clearly a very, very good case. You know, one of the things that I look at when you do these cold cases is, you know, is there some reasonable doubt? You know, because that's what the proof needs to be. And this is an extremely strong case against both of them.
Did you use I know there's a company in Texas that does DNA testing and so forth. Did you use the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office crime lab for this?
In this one, we do the crime lab. And then in cases that we're working currently, there's the lab called Bodie Technology, which is up in Virginia. They're the only ones that Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office will allow to put any evidence into CODIS, which is the national database for DNA.
How much did you guys work with West Palm Beach Police to get, you know, they had a hit on that, and you guys had these casings? And what is that like working together with them just to make sure this all matches up?
You know, you go back and you got to find the detective that's there. Is he's even still there? He was promoted up. You know, he was shocked when we called. You know, hey, we want to go through this. You know, and then you got to go back and find the reports, the evidence. You know, my fear at the time was, are the guns even still here? You know, did they dispose of them in their case and not realize? So, you know, you need to go back through and check all that stuff, because agencies are doing, you know, their own spring cleaning on evidence when their cases are done. And, you know, the fear was that things were missing or gone. You're talking 10 years. So, you know, going back through and getting the reports and then even finding the witnesses. We traveled to North Carolina to interview a witness. There's another one in Georgia. So, you know, these things, you know, people's lives move on. And, you know, look, I've worked with all these agencies for 30 years here. I know a lot of people in these agencies, and you know, everyone is excellent police departments, and they know what they're doing.
There's no surveillance video at the tire shop, right? So there's nothing that showed the shooting
Not at the tire shop, no, but there is surveillance video,
that shows the.
but doesn't show the shooting, no.
Where did the surveillance video come from?
From another business where it saw the car fleeing the scene.
So that played a role in this too? or-
Yeah, because the car was important. The witnesses identified it. The vehicle was found, which actually led the West Palm Beach Police to the location of where the suspects were living. And when the marshals arrested them in March 11th, I think it was, of 2014, on West Palm's case.
Were these guys tied to any other murders?
Not that I'm aware of.
How many cold cases did you have?
A lot. I won't give you a number, but I'm busy. The three of us are busy.
And what are the charges that you recommend in a particular case?
They were charged with first-degree murder and robbery with a firearm, and I believe felon in possession of a firearm with ammunition. Anybody else?
Do they have lengthy records?
I wouldn't consider them lengthy, but substantial. yeah.
But what, 6 prior arrests?
I don't think it's that many. I think Brown only has it. Brown's in jail on in state prison on a drug charge right now. I think he was only in for 2.5 years or something.
You said he was gonna get out soon?
October, he was due to get out.
Just October?
Yeah,
And the other suspect is also in custody?
yeah. Anybody?
Time moves on, other people move on, the family doesn't, the victims don't. You take
Correct.
it personal, the department takes it personal. What's like your first step when you come into these type of cold cases?
You know, reviewing everything as in the reports and evidence, you know, is the evidence still there? Is the witnesses still there? I mean, you know, when you're looking at cases in the 70s and 80s, you know, the big thing there is your witnesses. Are they still alive? Then, you know, going back and finding, you know, is the victim's family member still alive? You know, trying to locate them. They're in other states. They're wherever. You can't find them. So, you know, basically you go through, start over fresh, and acting like it's a new case. And unfortunately, you've got everything sitting there in front of you, and then you have to go through and to make that determination as to, is there something that we need to do? Is there something that hasn't been done? Is there something that technology-wise we can improvise, and maybe if something was tested, we can retest it? It's a work. So I mean, it's hours and hours of stuff. Anybody else? No? And it's
Ms. Bates,
At this time, we are going to hear from victim's family. We have mother of one of the victims, Cynthia Oziros. Want to come up?
Yes. Tony, everybody come. Come up.
You spell your name for us before you...
Cynthia, Cynthia, Oziros, Oziros. I just want to say thank you, first of all, to Officer McVeigh, everybody involved, Riviera Beach Police Department, because when they say cold case, you know, to them it's a big job and a lot of things that they have to do. But behind the words cold cases is us, family members, and other people. So there are real lives that are involved in this and real people. So I just want to say thank you very much for helping us close this case. We have justice for our family, and now we can move on, you know. And it was long and it was hard, but I just want to say thank you very much to everyone that was involved.
Did you think perhaps they would never solve this case?
Actually, I did.
Why?
You know, because, you know, I feel like if you don't find someone right away, it's just something that just goes on and on and on. And I just think that I appreciate everyone that was involved that really, you know, that took their time to look into it, and it's not easy. It's expensive, and it's, you know, it's a lot of time, and for them to just take the time to consider us is very nice, and I appreciate it.
What was your reaction when you learned that, hey, we've got these 2 guys behind bars?
Happy, relieved, relieved and happy for my family, you know, because, you know, something like that can cause other problems to happen within a family. You know, it just starts a whole ball of emotions. And I just feel like now we can finally put our lives back together and go on.
Can you describe your late husband? What kind of a person was he?
Just a happy man. He was happy, he was good. He loved his kids. He did everything for his kids. He made sure that they had everything that they needed. He came over here from Haiti, you know, and started building a family, you know, and that's what he wanted. He wanted the American dream. And he tried his best. You know, he was a hard worker, landscaping, tire shop. He did many things to just try to make his family, have something, something they can look back on. And just a wonderful, a good person.
Who are the fellows with you?
Oh, this is my son, my oldest son, Jasper, and this is my youngest son, Gregory.
Would you guys care to give us your reaction to the news that there's been 2 arrests in the case?
At first, it was just
Could you walk over closer to the mic so we can definitely hear you? Thank you.
at first it was just relief to have that closure, not only for my family but for other families, knowing that there are teams of people out working and doing their best to gain closure for them and their families. So again, to back up what my mom said, they took a wonderful guy away from us, and just hope that other families get to feel the same feeling that we get to feel, knowing that, someone can bring closure to their situations and their emotions and anything that they've been going through.
Thank you for the hard work. He was a good guy. Closure for my mom. He's good now. Conviction. So, thank you.
What would you, if you were able to speak to these 2 guys who've been arrested, what would you say to them?
Words can explain.
I mean, just incredibly angry about it, or?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Do you have anything you'd want to say to these 2 killers, these guys who took your husband's life?
You took away my life. You took away my grandkids, grandfather. You just destroyed us. And nothing like that should ever happen to anyone. And you have to be responsible for what you've done. And now you will be.